So what I've got here is an assortment of ingredients. Today we're going to be making kind of like a mock stir fry. And this is really great for anybody who's like kind of inexperienced in the kitchen or has little resources. This is just a really great inexpensive meal. And today we're going to be doing a family-sized portion, so it's even better if you have like a roommate you want to cook for or just somebody to impress. So anyway, I've kind of made sort of a makeshift assembly line here. We're gonna start with cutting the produce, because for this one I want to add a pepper. It's optional. This really just kind of gives it some acidity, some flavor. You don't have to add it. This is for the end, so that's why it's over by the bowl and stuff. These are essential. So steakums or really sizzlers, these are usually very inexpensive. They're very thin steaks. You can get them for usually about $6, and they come in a box at the Dollar General store. They're called steakums. They're pretty good for if you want to like have that kind of a little bit of iron in your meal. But again, it's optional. Really, everything in this is optional. 2 eggs, that really kind of gives it that authentic feel. These are gonna be for sauteing, and then here's our seasonings. So before we do anything, I'm just gonna cut this because sometimes that can take some time. And you may have noticed it's already cut in half. I used it fairly recently, so I would show you the proper way to cut a pepper. But really the trick is just to get it as flat as possible so it's not rolling around, and always keep it away from you. Don't ever have the knife pointed towards you. It's kind of common sense, but you know, some people like to cut themselves unintentionally. Alright, so as you can see, I cut the bell peppers in strips. We're going to dice them just so you're not eating a whole chunk with your noodles. It really shouldn't take long. Really what you got to do is just kind of like hold them together, cluster them, and you know. Okay, so now our pepper's all cut up. We're gonna saute it first because you know it's kind of hard and it needs to soften and absorb the flavors. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this. It says garlic and water, but what I actually did was I minced some garlic in and I put some like olive oil in it. It won't focus. Yeah. And, but I mean, it's a very time-consuming process, so if you can afford to do that, you can just do the garlic and water, or you could just even put down some olive oil or butter, kind of whatever you really want, but just, you know, throw in some garlic powder. And you are only going to need, like, literally this much, because the garlic is so strong, especially when it's fresh. You know, so we're gonna put this in here. You know, I only have one hand to work with, so just imagine I'm scraping it with a knife. Okay. Now we got it on medium heat, just because we don't want it to burn up instantly. We're gonna put in some black cracked peppers. I'm telling you right now, do not add salt. This whole recipe, do not add salt. And I'll tell you why, because we're gonna be using soy sauce later, and that's gonna be our substitute for the salt, and it's very high in sodium, so we will not be using real salt today, guys. Alright, now we got our black cracked pepper. You can just use like the regular pepper, you know, whatever you can afford, man. Just put in some pepper on that stuff because it's gonna make it pop. Okay, now we're gonna add some onion powder, and you know, that's a little bit too much, but don't worry, we'll mix it in with the other stuff. We'll compensate. So now whatever you started with, whether you use the olive oil and garlic or you used butter, you're probably going to need a little bit more because there's really none in the pan, and this is going to burn, which I don't mind like a little bit of singe, but this is going to last you for pretty much the rest of the recipe, so you're definitely going to need a pretty good base. So just add a little bit of, and I use Bertolli's olive oil. It's pretty expensive, but it definitely has a better flavor. I think it's about $10 at Walmart, and I mean, it lasts you a really long time, and I pretty much use olive oil exclusively in my meals. Typically for an Asian meal, you want to use vegetable oil for more of that authentic taste, but I wasn't really thinking about that, so now we have it sauteing, so we're going to move on to the noodles now. Alright, so we just got some boiling water. I lied about the salt, because I always put a little bit of salt in the boiling water. I don't even really know if it does anything, but, you know, that's what they say, so I did that. wait till it boils. While we're waiting for it to come to a boil, and I filled it up to about 4 cups, and that should be good for 2 of these, because you know it melts down. Now, while we're waiting for that, we're gonna pop out these steakums. Now they cook really quick, so it's quite a risky procedure. Because actually don't buy these ones because they have a patty in between them, so you know there's gonna be a little bit of a sausage twist, but it probably won't be that bad. More protein. So here's what we got so far. See, it's already starting to brown. Let's give it a nice flip. Keep these in here, you know, the flavors will complement each other. And in just a little bit, I'll show you the seasoning we must continue with. Okay, we're gonna throw in some sauces. So, a little bit of soy sauce, right? Really gives it that savory. Then we're gonna use some Worcestershire sauce, because like, there's really nothing better than Worcestershire sauce when it comes to really anything beef related. And it's just so aromatic too, like, just trust me on this. Okay? Okay, so it's come to a boil, so we put the noodles in, they're boiling, they're already kind of breaking apart. As soon as it comes to a boil, you gotta put it up to like medium heat, or it is going to boil over, no question about it. And it just falls apart really quickly, so that's no big deal. Over here we got our steakums and peppers. You are going to have to keep reapplying sauce. Well, not necessarily sauces, but you're definitely going to have to keep adding butter or olive oil as it does dry up. Try to get it to cook evenly. As you can see, there's still a little bit of rawness going on here, so just stir, you know, as needed. Keep an eye on it. Really, you only needed about 2 patties if you're making this for 2 people, I'd say. But you can, you know, add more or less depending on your preference. And just kind of cut it apart in bite-sized pieces. You obviously don't want to eat a whole patty, but yeah. So the noodles are completely, like, really well broken apart now at this point. So now would be a good time to put them in the strainer. Just a simple spaghetti strainer is really all you need. Shoot, I don't even know what I'm doing at this point. So after some good stirring, and I added, you know, a little bit more onion powder, just a little bit more to compensate, a little bit of everything. It should look like this. It's going to be really good. There's, you know, the peppers are going to darken, they're going to soften, everything's going to take form, and it's going to be very aromatic. So at this point, we're going to take these off. So in your previous pot, what you're going to need to do is take some butter, and the really cool thing about stick butter is, you know, it melts, right? It's soft, so you can just kind of squeeze it out a little bit. And I know it looks like a lot of butter, but for this portion, it'll be pretty good. So you're kind of going to want to guide it around, you know, the bottom of the pot. So you don't want your noodles to stick, right? Okay. So once you get a kind of nice little figure 8 going in there, just pour them in. Make sure the heat is off though, they're still hot, remember? Obviously you're going to want to break it up a little bit. Now we're going to add the seasoning. So I often find that these packets are very high in sodium, and I can never eat, like, if I'm eating 1 packet of ramen myself, I can never do the whole seasoning. So I usually use half, but since we're doing 2, we're going to just use 1 whole packet. Just gonna, you know, dump it in, break it up. You're gonna stir it. And there should still be plenty of moisture from the noodles and the butter. So just stir evenly. Now I'm gonna add this LaChoy teriyaki sauce. There's pretty much so many different kinds of sauce. Just pick whatever you like. You know, there's Panda Express, there's Kinder, what, you know, just really anything that's good for a stir fry. And we're gonna pour this in. Okay, so just gonna, okay, that looks generous. Stir it up. And with this sauce, it's really sweet, so it kind of really counteracts the saltiness from the packaging. But this, you know, this flavor packet really helps. And I use chicken just to kind of give it a little bit of that brothy feel. Now we're going to pour this in, which I'm not going to show you that or I'll burn myself. But I mean, and you can really see it's kind of got that charred texture. You know it's been cooked really good at that point. This is what it looks like so far, but now we're going to add the egg. And with the egg, we're going to cook it in the same pan we cooked that in because that's really going to flavor the eggs. And for this, it's like 1 egg per person or like 1 egg per portion. Since we're making 2 packets, it's going to be 2 eggs. Now, I used olive oil at the beginning, as you may remember, but there's really not much liquid left in the pan. So, and since it's an egg, it can get really oily. I'm going to use a little bit of butter. And as you spread it evenly, you can really see how the butter has absorbed the seasonings from the bottom of the pan. That's what you want. So as you may have seen, and typically in Asian culture, they let their eggs be very like runny with the yolk on their ramen. But if it's easier for you, just scramble it. That's what I'm going to do since the portions get divided much easier that way when you're dealing with multiple people. If it's like 1 person, you know. Plus, you know, it's pretty hard to keep the yolk from breaking in this case. So, yeah, just cook it up, scramble it. Oh, I bet you hated that, didn't you? Yeah, just scramble it up and put it in. Okay, so once it's plated, it should look something like this. It's really, you know, just kind of take what you can use. I used what I had. You could also add broccoli, kind of saute it with the peppers, do that same kind of method. Overall, it's really hard to mess up ramen. There's not really a lot to it. This just kind of spoofs it up. It gives it a little bit of protein, you know, a little bit of flavor. You know, it's a little bit more healthy, a little bit more fancy, and, you know, it gets you through. It provides more filling to you. So, I mean, yeah. You know, and we should be eating eggs too because, like, they have vitamin D, and that's, like, the only thing other than, like, the sun that really has eggs. So, you know, like, you know, that like, helps you from getting sick. Or you could just eat your ramen raw, like I like to do. My sister said that, that's actually considered a delicacy in prison. So, yeah, thanks. Enjoy.